Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be another emergency situation related to flash flooding. I already posted and covered the severe weather threat for today. There's a moderate risk that's almost essentially copying this risk. This is the WPC or Weather Prediction Center. The Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlook has a moderate risk, and it looks almost exactly like this. Um, but flash flooding and severe weather are totally different things, and it can be a little bit confusing. And it is possible that you could mix the two up. But the good thing about this is that this has four risk areas, uh, like tiers of risks. This has four tiers, and the Storm Prediction Center has five tiers. Um, so yeah, well, technically six, but not really. It's considered five. Uh, but anyway, so just a quick update on the severe weather before we get into the flash flooding risk. The moderate risk has actually moved. We're talking about the Storm Prediction Center. Storm Prediction Center tracks severe weather. We're not talking about severe weather in this case right now. I'm just going over what updates for the Storm Prediction Center. On the severe weather side, the moderate risk has shifted southward because the mesoscale convective system that went through Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa actually hindered the instability to where it's not really able to shoot up north that quickly. So, uh, which is why there is the moderate risk was shifted south. So is the enhanced risk. There's a broader slight risk that covers Chicago, but slight risk is not a moderate risk. So thank God Chicago is somewhat spared. Uh, his keyword is somewhat, but they're not spared entirely. But yeah, currently I actually have mesoanalysis pulled up. And what I'm looking at here, 0 to 6 kilometer shear values, there's 80 knots of shear in northern Illinois. And the storm relative helicity is 900. It's effective storm relative helicity. 0 to 500 meter storm relative helicity is 300 in central Illinois, which is it's really high. But anyways, we're covering flash flooding, not severe weather. I just had to give you a severe weather update because I know stuff changed, and you guys may want to notice. Anyway, so here we have two double moderate risks of flash flooding. One that's closer to the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. This is due to Tropical Storm Arthur, which actually just made landfall on the Texas Gulf Coast. Just made landfall. It's completely soaking the land. It is horrendous rainfall down there. I'm sure we've had many flash flood emergencies so far. I personally haven't checked. Me personally, I have not checked. So it it may be something to be worth warranting checking. But then we also have another moderate risk, like I said, like I aforementioned earlier in the video. It looks exactly like the severe weather risk, and that's because there's a higher risk of rainfall. Right? It was added on the 16Z update. There was a 12Z. It had a moderate risk of rainfall for Chicago, the Chicago metro area. It basically had that. But now it doesn't. So here we go. So the 16Z update, moderate risks for excessive rainfall for portions of Illinois and Indiana, as well as the Mississippi Delta. 16Z or 16 UTC update. The moderate risk in the Midwest has been shifted south based on current observational trends and the latest 12Z high-resolution guidance with regards to an ongoing mesoscale convective system over northern Illinois. This will likely limit the northward propagation of the warm front or northward propagation of the warm front and effective outflow into the afternoon hours, bringing the greatest threat for heavy rainfall and flash flooding along a west to northwest to east to southeast axis through central Illinois into central Indiana. This includes both the more intense storms on the southern and southwest end of the ongoing mesoscale convective system, able to tap into greater moisture and instability along the warm front, as well as for additional thunderstorm development that will focus along the warm front and the effective outflow. repeated development and potential training of robust and heavy rainfall producing storms with rainfall rates around 2 inches per hour, leading to totals of 3 to 5 inches with locally as high as 6 to 7 inches, and it will pose a threat for scattered to widespread incidents of flash flooding. If you say 6, 7, I swear to God, it's not funny. Plus, this is a very serious incident. So, further south, the moderate and slight risks have also been minimally adjusted based on the latest 12Z guidance along and east of the track of what is now Tropical Storm Arthur. Plentiful tropical moisture will support additional rainfall totals of 3 to 5 inches, with localized amounts as high as 6 to 10 inches, and the highest totals look to focus along a corridor within southeastern Louisiana, generally between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where the greatest threat for more widespread instances of flash flooding will exist. So this is the previous discussion, Chicagoland. So the previous discussion is going to contradict some things that was previously noted in the most recent update, but you can always reference the recent update by just like pausing the video, taking a screenshot, this, that, whatever, and just looking at it. But yeah, anyways, so a potent low-pressure system racing out of the plains and across the Great Lakes today will run into an increasingly moist air mass in place ahead of the low over the Midwest. As the low approaches the Chicagoland region this late morning, convection will break out along the low's warm front extending east of the low center. The initial hit of rain with the warm front is unlikely to feature too much heavy rain, though embedded elevated convection could make for brief, heavier downpours. Immediately behind the warm front, however, a surge of moisture and instability will fuel back-building thunderstorms during the afternoon ahead of a strong cold front trailing behind the low. These storms are prologued by many of the convective allowing models to generate into several broken lines of thunderstorms as they cross northern Illinois and into northern Indiana and southern Michigan through the late afternoon and early evening. These storms will have ample forcing, allowing them to organize into severe clusters of thunderstorms. They are likely to produce locally heavy rainfall totals or rates of up to 2 inches per hour where they backbuild. However, since the series of line segments will be sufficiently separated by much lighter or no rain, it seems as if any flash flooding that does result from these thunderstorms will be more localized and less widespread. Further, as mentioned, these storms will be racing very quickly, likely moving at greater than 40 miles per hour. This will greatly reduce the time any one area sees heavy rain, but since the lines are expected to align parallel to the wind flow, those areas may see a bit longer time of heavy rainfall. Hydrologically, the Chicagoland area has seen several bouts of heavy rain in recent weeks that have left the soils above normal for moisture content as well as prone to flash flooding with sufficiently heavy rain. Of course, the large urban area of Chicago will also help to worsen any flash flooding threat that does develop, so in those local areas where heavy rainfall overlaps with urban areas, locally considerable flash flooding is possible. And further east into Indiana, eastern Michigan, and eventually northwestern Ohio, the lines of thunderstorms this evening should align with the cold front and largely orthogonal to the flow. This should lower the flash flooding risk in these areas despite similarly favorable hydrology. Excuse me. Mississippi Delta. The moisture plume of potential Tropical Cyclone 1, which we now know as Tropical Storm Arthur, will continue to slowly advect northeast across the northwestern Gulf and into southern Louisiana today and into tonight. For much of the day, the heaviest rains will remain offshore, and except for the occasional showers and an isolated thunderstorm or two, much of the area should not contend with heavy rain, or much heavy rain. That changes tonight as the center of circulation of what may be, which is now, Tropical Storm Arthur, moves ashore near the Texas-Louisiana border. All of the deep moisture will be east of the center of circulation, so that will direct the fire hose of heavy rain into south-central Louisiana from the Abbeville and New Iberia areas northeast near Baton Rouge and into southern Mississippi after midnight. By that point, the diurnal strengthening of the nocturnal jet will function as the primary driver of heavy rain as northeastward moving thunderstorms backbuild into the jet. The area from around Baton Rouge northeast to the north of Lake Pontchartrain and into far southern Mississippi is likely to be the corridor with the heaviest rain. There is considerable uncertainty, first, of the eastern extent of the axis of heaviest rain, particularly in relation to the New Orleans metropolitan area. For now, most of the guidance makes a very tight gradient of moisture, which most of the city remains on the drier side of. However, this axis of heaviest rain has been shifting east from model run to model run over the last couple of days, which any further eastward drift would bring New Orleans right into the corridor of multiple inch per hour rainfall for multiple hours. Regardless, even if New Orleans misses out on the heaviest rainfall, feeder bands of showers and thunderstorms could still cause localized flash flooding in the city. Thus, the moderate risk remains largely unchanged and includes New Orleans, and more than a couple convective allowing models do bring strong cells over the city, which would very quickly lead to flooding problems. So, yeah, that's not really great. So, I really don't know what to say. There's very pertinent threats, double moderate risk. Notice how they don't mention Arizona or New Mexico or southern Florida because these two are the most priority. Now, that moderate risk goes away. This is for tomorrow. That moderate risk in Illinois and Indiana, along with that slight risk in from Kansas and Oklahoma to Ohio, that goes away tomorrow. And instead, the lingering moderate risk near the Gulf Coast actually continues, and now it includes extreme portions of northeastern Louisiana or southeastern Louisiana, excuse me, southern and southeastern Mississippi, all of southern Alabama, even central-ish Alabama, south central Alabama, southern Alabama, all that, including Mobile. I think Montgomery may be included in this, or Birmingham, I don't know. And then southwestern Georgia and the northwestern panhandle of Florida is also involved in the moderate risk, with the slight risk going from Oklahoma and Texas down into the Gulf states and up into the Appalachians and into the Mid-Atlantic region. So, and also the East Coast as well. So, there is a moderate risk of excessive rainfall for portions of the southeast. Southeast. Okay, that's it. Southeast. Very heavy rain associated with what will be the remnants of post-tropical cyclone 1, which we now know as Tropical Storm Arthur, will be ongoing at the start of the period over most of southern Mississippi and likely extending into southwestern Alabama. These storms will be fueled by a strong low-level jet that's pumping deep tropical moisture into a corridor that covers much of the moderate risk area. By around midday, the rapidly increasing instability and the typical weakening of the low-level jet will allow the widespread convection to transition into training lines of thunderstorms that track east with time. And as the line gradually drifts south towards the greatest instability and moisture source, that is the Gulf. Thus, the greatest focus of heaviest rain now appears to set up from southeast Mississippi east across the southern tier of Alabama and far western Georgia. 3-inch per hour or greater rainfall rates from individual thunderstorms will combine with multiple hours of rain as the storms train along the east to west oriented lines. Storm total rainfall for the day could easily exceed 8 inches in some spots. Mobile, Alabama will be the biggest city in the crosshairs of the heaviest rainfall. It's really not good for Mobile. With this rather dramatic southward shift in the guidance of where the heaviest rainfall totals are expected, the moderate risk inherited was trimmed significantly on the north side, while expanded across southeast Alabama, the western Florida Panhandle, and far southwestern Georgia. The moderate risk was downgraded out of both the Birmingham and Atlanta metros as those areas see leftover heavy rains from the much more potent and heavy rain-producing storms much closer to the Gulf. Nonetheless, periodic convection and a long duration of light to moderate rain is still expected over these metropolitan areas, so the higher-end slight risk does remain in effect. Convective coverage greatly decreases Thursday nights over all of the southeast, but isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms could persist throughout the night in some areas. Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Further north from the Gulf along the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, a cold front will start the day following roughly parallel to the Ohio River. The front will slowly sink southward over Kentucky through the day, and meanwhile, daytime heating and unidirectional southwesterly flow ahead of the front is expected to generate a long line of thunderstorms. These storms will be training and backbuilding along the Kentucky-Tennessee border and extending into West Virginia. Guidance has shifted a bit further south, especially with the western end of the line, so the higher-end slight risk now follows the entire length of the Kentucky-Tennessee border, and now includes Nashville, while the Ohio River has largely been removed from the risk area. With nightfall and the loss of daytime heating, the flash flooding risk from thunderstorms will also diminish. Arkansas and Oklahoma. On Thursday night, the westernmost extent of the low-level jet over Texas will run into the same stalled-out front that extends east into Kentucky. This clash of air masses is likely to result in the development of a mesoscale convective system over eastern Oklahoma, which will then propagate southeastward into western Arkansas. Here too, the soils are wetter than normal from multiple bouts of heavy rain in recent weeks, so a slight risk does remain in place over the area with few changes. Okay, so day 3, there is another moderate risk. This was not there earlier, but it is now. It now includes extreme portions of southeastern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and except for the very like Gulf beaches, except for that, and extreme southwestern Georgia and the northwestern panhandle of Florida. I had to think of the state. I don't know why. Um, yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so there's a moderate risk of excessive rainfall for much of southern Alabama. Southeast. Any lull in heavy rainfall across southern Alabama from Thursday night behind the precipitation shield associated with the remnants of, let's just say, because it says PTC1, we're going to say Tropical Storm Arthur, of Tropical Storm Arthur will end in a hurry Friday morning as the cold front over the Tennessee Valley continues to press southward and runs into the ongoing southerly flow and low-level jet of deep tropical moisture from off the Gulf. The clash of these air masses looks to maximize over southern Alabama, where thunderstorms are likely to continue in some form or fashion for much of the day Friday. Assuming the multiple inches of rain from Thursday does occur in these same areas, the slightly lower storm total rain on Friday will make little difference for the flooding risk as multiple inches of rain fall over the same areas, very hard hit from Thursday. This very good overlap in the storm placement from Thursday to Friday necessitated a risk upgrade across southern Alabama for the day 3 Friday period. Should this overlap continue to hold and the widespread multiple inches of rain with localized totals to double digits from Thursday occurs as forecast, it's entirely feasible that the hardest hit areas may need further upgrades to the flooding risk. Uh-oh. Unfortunately, the track record with the convective allowing models ensembles on maintaining continuity day to day on where the storms will occur is not very good, so any movement breaking the overlap will greatly improve the rather ominous flooding outlook for southern Alabama on Friday. Excuse me, convective coverage over Alabama should diminish greatly Friday night, as heavier rains to the west and the departing system to the east should put the state in a relatively ridging pattern, allowing for a much needed break from the rainfall. The Texas Hill Country. Southeasterly flow of deep moisture from off the Gulf will continue across much of Texas through the day 3 period. Northwestward moving convection on the leading edge of the deep moisture will collide with thunderstorms that do form along the dry line and the Mexican mountains Friday evening, resulting in mesoscale convective system development that turns the storms back towards the best instability to the southeast. This should result in some areas seeing multiple rounds of heavy rainfall, producing thunderstorms over the historically flash flood-prone region of the Texas Hill Country. Thus, a slight risk remains in effect for the region. Lesser amounts of rain are expected further east into north-central Texas and the Metroplex, so the inherited slight risk was downgraded in that area. Okay, so now we're going to move on to day 4 and day 5. Day 4, luckily there's nothing really else for southern Alabama and the flood-prone areas, or the areas that would be flooded today, tomorrow, and Friday. Nothing is, nothing is over there anymore besides the general marginal risk, and that marginal risk then disappears on Sunday, sorry. But however, there's a slight risk for portions of the Midwest and the Plains on Saturday, and then just for the Midwest on Sunday. So let's read that. There is a slight risk of excessive rainfall for portions of the the Central Plains through the Mississippi into the Lower Ohio Valley. Day 4. A well-defined 500 millibar shortwave trough will move from the Great Basin into the northern Rockies midday Saturday, reaching the northern High Plains by Saturday night. Ahead of a southward advancing Canadian cold front, a northward lifting warm front across the Central Plains will lead an anomalous moisture plume into an increasingly unstable environment. While exact convective placement varies, the deterministic models remain in generally good agreement, depicting a deepening surface low over the Central Plains that will help to focus moisture along the leading edge of a strengthening global jet. A deepening pool of moisture, precipitable water values increasing to 1.5 to 2 inches over central Nebraska and Kansas eastward into southwestern Iowa and western to central Missouri, will support efficient rainfall rates. This ample moisture, along with large-scale ascent afforded by mid-level shortwave and right entrance region jet forcing, will further encourage heavy rainfall and the potential for flash flooding across the region. Therefore, a slight risk was maintained across the region. Further south, a weakening frontal boundary and residual tropical moisture will trigger additional thunderstorms from South Texas across the Gulf Coast. Localized flooding will likely remain a threat given the increasing sensitive soils. Day 5. The forecast confidence lowers, notably heading into the latter half of the weekend as guidance begins to diverge on the track of the leading wave forming across the central or over the Central Plains on day 4. Notably, the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts offers one of the more northerly solutions compared to other guidance. Beyond the primary waves track from the Midwest into the east, considerable model spread exists regarding the timing of the trailing front and subsequent wave and storm development. With the continuation of ample moisture, instability, and strong forcing areas of heavy rainfall and flash flooding appear likely. Given the model spread, the outlook area, including a slight risk extending from the lower Missouri to the lower Ohio Valley, relied most heavily on a multi-model ensemble mean. Alrighty, so if you live in the moderate risks red areas today, tomorrow, or Friday, especially if you live in the yellow on Saturday or Sunday, please know what to do in case of an emergency. I know there are going to be flash flood emergencies that will be occurring over these areas. I know there will be. So please do what's right for you and get to shelter immediately. Get to a higher ground immediately when you're able to. It is going to help you so much. Your lives will be saved. You will be saved. Your family will be saved. Everybody else will be saved that's in your family. So do it. It's very important that you understand and can comprehend the directions that the National Weather Service and other weather affiliated fields tell you to do in case of an emergency. Because if you can't follow those directions, you, your family, your whole neighborhood, or your whole community, or your whole town could accidentally kill themselves because they didn't follow the directions. Well, I wouldn't know if it would be accidental, but still, regardless, they didn't follow the directions. And obviously, we don't want that to happen. We want everybody to be as safe and sound as humanly possible. So do what's right for you and take shelter when you're in a warning. It doesn't matter what the flash flooding is. If it's even a mere bit of flash flooding, you should still know what to do and get to higher ground just as a precautionary and preparedness action. Because God forbid if there's a flash flood emergency, which I know there's going to be, you will be in a terrible situation and it will be absolutely painful to get out of. So please, again, like I said, do what's right for you. I'm going to get out of your hair, but do what's right for you and take shelter when you can. Plus, again, also, a very important thing, there's going to be a moderate risk of severe weather also. So if you're under a tornado warning, a PDS tornado warning, or God forbid a tornado emergency, please get to shelter immediately. Get underground. If you're in a tornado warning, get underground. But if you're in a flash flood warning, get above ground. The flash flood warning is the opposite of a tornado warning. In a tornado, the hazard is going to be coming from the sky and touching the ground. And then it's going to suck everything up into the core and destroy everything. That's what a tornado does. That's why you need to get to the lowest floor of a sturdy building so that the chances of you getting sucked away is as close to zero as possible. However, what a flash flood warning is representing is the hazard coming from the clouds touches the ground and then it just sits there. It sits there and it causes a ton of currents in the water. It picks up everything, washes it away. If it finds a hill, gravity will exploit the water, and the water will start rushing down the hill or just something. And it can kill many people. People can drown, animals can drown, property can be washed away, cars can be washed away. Literally. Just a couple inches of water can knock you off your feet, and 6 inches of water can carry a car. I don't think you want that, so. Again, like I said, do what's right for you. Take shelter when you can, but remember which shelter you're taking. If you're under a tornado warning, get underground. If you're under a flash flood warning, get above ground. However, if you're under a tornado warning and a flash flood warning, it's more important that you get to ground immediately, as the tornado is very sporadic. It can spawn up anywhere, whereas flash flooding is much more predictable. It's just training rain over a single area. So if you're under a tornado warning, and a flash flood warning at the same time. The tornado warning is the most. You gotta prioritize the tornado warning first, and then deal with the flash flooding. When the tornado warning expires, then you haul ass upstairs and go up above ground. Okay, because like I said, flash flooding is way more predictable. It's just training cells, training thunderstorms in an area, and it's just rain, it's rain, it's rain, it's rain. And yes, it will accumulate, but a tornado happens suddenly, or it could happen suddenly. Yes, you can see the signs of a tornado, but you don't know when it's going to form. Sometimes a supercell can take hours to spawn a tornado. Sometimes it can do it in 2 minutes. Okay, so it's very unpredictable. All right, so I promise I will get out of your hair, so just do the things that you need to do, say the things that you need to say, and let people know about this. I can't let everybody know about this. I'm not a very popular channel, so please do your part. Let people know about this. You need to put this out there and tell everybody what they should do, what they need to do, and what they will do, okay? Especially under certain circumstances. But yeah, so Ryan Holyall just went live 15 minutes ago, so I'm gonna watch his stream now, so see you later.